After spending months rising the ranks in the Minecraft PvP community and training over 12 hours a day, I was about to face off against one of the deadliest Minecraft players of all time. But why? Why was I doing this? To understand how I got in this situation, we need to go all the way back to August 29th, 2020.
I have $100,000 in cash and the best Minecraft players in the entire world.
After receiving millions of views, the Technoblade vs Dream Duel inspired players across the globe to begin training in the kits featured in the video. After a decent sized player base began playing the Axe and Shield game mode, in order to determine who the best was, this birthed the creation we now know as the tier list. A way of determining a player's skill in the game mode. After several iterations throughout the years, the current tier list looks like this. Hundreds of lower ranking tier 5s and tier 4s, dozens of solid tier 3 players, a few top ranking tier 2s, and some of the best players not only of all time, but currently dominating tier 1s. Since the day I laid eyes on the list, I wanted it badly. I needed tier 2. I knew that getting tier 2 wouldn't be easy, as out of the thousands of players who played Axe PvP, only a couple dozen could ever claim the prestigious title of tier 2, so I had a few objectives in mind. First things first, I needed to learn new techniques, then I'll have to test for high tier 3, and lastly defeat every high tier 3 player I knew. After accomplishing all these goals, I felt confident I could secure my spot as the next tier 2 Axe PvPer. And so, my training begins. I needed to change something. Over the next couple of weeks, I doubled down on my practice. At this point, I was playing over 10 hours a day, which is honestly kind of sad. But as it turns out, it would heavily pay off, as I would discover a new potentially meta-defined strategy. P-crits, the art of doing damage to your opponent by using the KB you received from their hit. Normally when you P-crit, you put yourself in a position where you can be punished for it. However, what I learned was with some precise timing and spacing, not only would my P-crit be unpunishable, but I would also be within range to jump back for a second crit, doing nearly half my opponent's HP from a single engagement. And I got good. So good with the strategy that used to be able to beat me before, but now have a lot more difficulty fighting me. After learning a couple new techniques that give me the edge over the vast majority of my opponents, and a couple of games against top players I managed to win, I was feeling extremely confident in my skills, so it was time to put them to the test. I was going to officially test for high tier 3. Now in order to achieve it, I'd have to go even or defeat an official high tier 3 tester in a 1st to 18 duel. However, my confidence soon changed as I found out who I was to test against. Having some of the strongest game mechanics in the entire server, knowing how to abuse P-crits just as well as I could, this player was being trained by all the top Axe PvPers in the community. His name was Catfory. The average high tier 3 he'd 6-1, and even the most dominant high tier 3s at the time could only get 3 games off him in a best to 10. If I were to lose, I'd have to wait over a month again to retest. With all the pressure on the table, this was it. This would determine whether I'm eligible or not for the goal I've been striving for months. I was up 5-2 against the top high tier 3 player. I was blown away at how well I was doing, and at this rate, I'd get tier 2 easily. However, something felt a little off. It was a 1st to 18 and I was already getting way too overconfident this early in the match. This would lead to me losing my focus for a little bit, allowing Cat4, who was observing my gameplay, timings, and patterns, to develop a strategy to counter them. This was bad. Up until this point, I relied on winning the melee engagements, but the more and more Cat4 started catching up on me, I was forced to use my crossbow and bow more, which seemed to catch him off guard at first and would win me a couple rounds. Fast forwarding a few games, I found myself in some really intense and close fights. I found that overall Cat4 would win the shield engagements, however my crossbow spam more than made up for it. After some hard fought games, the score was a 16 to 14 for me. At this point, all I would need to do would be to secure 2 more games and I could test for tier 2. In my mind, I was only thinking about winning. This and all of my nerves would ultimately lead to my greatest downfall. I had lost. I couldn't defeat a mere high tier 3 and my confidence was at an all-time low. I knew deep down that I'd still have a ways to go before I'd be even remotely close to tier 2 skill. Was it even worth spending hours of my day in order to get my name written in a Google spreadsheet? Was it worth cutting back all of my hobbies for something that honestly didn't matter in the grand scheme of things? I'm probably thinking about this too deeply. Ultimately, I had a decision to make. Move on from Axe and actually do something productive with my life, with a small regret of never completing my goal in the Axe and Shield community, or throw away everything else in my life to defeat and become one of Minecraft's greatest Axe and Shield players of all time.